Welcome to Sips and Heal, the podcast where we explore the real, raw, and sometimes messy journey of healing, one sip at a time. I'm Sally G, and I'm here to bring the vibes, the insight, and a little luxury to your healing process.
And I'm Tuni Lee, keeping it grounded, keeping it real, always ready for the deep dives that help us grow, learn, and thrive.
And I'm Philip, the producer, your voice behind the boards, and occasional tea spiller when the moment's right. Together, we're here to guide you through healing with open hearts and honest conversations.
Welcome to Sips and Heal. We are back. Tuni.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been. It has been quite the journey, and I'm so curious to learn what you've experienced as far as our healing journey. I'm so ready to share my story. I want to hear your story too. Are we leaving anything off the table?
We are going all raw. We're going to talk about it all.
Okay. All right. So get ready. Strap on your seatbelt because it's gonna be an interesting one because we have to be truly honest and raw about what we've been through, and hopefully that will also kind of give you an insight on who we are, and also you can learn something if you happen to be on the healing journey or is something you're interested in. You could actually, learn from it, right? Isn't that what we're trying to do?
That's definitely what we're trying to do. I feel we've both had a lot of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I think what really motivates me to want to do this is I feel that maybe I've gone through something, and if I shared my story, there's someone out there who could benefit from it. A problem shared is a problem solved.
It is.
So I really just want to maybe begin this by saying, Sally, what is it that you would tell your younger self?
My youngest self, I would say the adult, I guess the youngest adult. I'd go back 20 years from now. And I seriously just want to reach out to that girl and give her a tight hug and tell her everything will be okay. Because I was so anxious about life. I didn't have answers. There was so much that wasn't taught to me, and literally I had to learn from the world by the mistakes that I made. So I hope that when I do share my journey, that this can actually help someone who's starting out, like probably is in their early 20s.
The big auntie.
I want to be that big auntie that I wish I had, and not to take away from what my aunties were like, because they were there and they were sweet, but we come from a society where a lot of things are not shared.
Right, and we're in a different generation where now we've uncovered things like therapy, coaching,
Correct.
which was not available to them
Yes.
back then. So.
Yes, and I'm very grateful that we actually were able to relocate, because sometimes you do have to separate to elevate. So we had to truly separate from what we knew, our comfortable environment, and then to be put in another environment, because that changes you. For me and for you, I believe it was the same. We had to move from Kenya and come to the United States. That in itself is a transition.
So why don't you take us back for as far as you can go and how you got to where we are now?
Where we are as far as healing. For me, that my healing journey really began with having to soul search. And I did that, and this actually came from dating. Dating, and I'll say relationships with also family members.
Okay.
Because at some point, you have to, when you're much younger, I feel like I was just blaming everybody else. Like life was happening to me, not for me. So I was always like, oh my God, my brother is doing this, my mother's doing this, oh, this guy did this. It's always somebody else and somebody else. And then at some point you're like, okay, you're the common denominator. Like, why are you always the one who's going through this? How am I contributing to that? So that in itself, and it was a relationship that went south that I had so much faith in. I was so into it.
Some insight?
No, I went into it honestly. When you're young, honestly, and you haven't been taught how to date. I was not taught how to date by anyone. Literally, is what you see your parents doing and your aunties doing, and what you see in movies. So, like, I'm a romantic, so I'm expecting all the things I'm seeing in movies. So it's when you meet somebody, you're not vetting them. You're wearing your rose-colored glasses, and I did that. So you meet somebody, and they do tell you meet people where you are, like they're a reflection of who you are. I did not know that. So I was blaming them for all the bad things they were doing. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a narcissist. He's selfish, he's this and the other. Then I was like, wait a minute. This is a few years later after making the mistake and dating several people. And then you're like, wait, my friends, they're meeting people, they're moving on, they're getting into serious relationships. Why not me? What is happening to me? What is wrong with me? So that's actually what led to me going like, okay, I need to really dig deep into this. So I dated a guy, and it started out great, as they always do. And then within weeks, it was so ugly because I think I overinvested as well in the beginning. I was so excited and I overinvested. And I'm already seeing, I'm building the castles in the sky. I'm like, oh my goodness, I can see myself with this person.
Is it when you were much older, much younger?
And so, well, I'll talk about my 20s. My 20s, I literally did live with, I lived with a guy.
No, this relationship you speak of is this.
The one I speak of, so I dated, so in my 20s, I was with the one guy that I was dating and living together with him. Of course, when I look back now, I realize I was just a roommate. I was really just there to help out pay the rent. Unfortunately, it is the truth, and we have to speak about it. And when I look back, I realize, my goodness, he wasn't honoring me. Why did I never think about that? But I was so new in this country, and there's that thing of, oh my goodness, I just left home. I want to make sure that I also take care of people back home. So I'm working so much. I'm not even paying attention or even investing my time into the relationship. And you know what they tell you? If you're not giving something, if what they do tell you this, if you're not giving in dating, what you're not giving the other person, they can easily get it from someone else. Especially when I was extremely busy focusing on my career. I just come here, I'm in school, my career, I'm just trying to move on, and working as well. So you barely have time to even nurture that relationship.
But it seems the other person wasn't nurturing as well.
Two
It
wrongs
takes
don't
two
make
to
a right.
tango.
Two wrongs do not make a right. So we were both wrong. So I take ownership for my part because obviously I've had the soul searching. I've looked within, so I could do that. But he too wasn't doing any. He was actually doing everything that was dishonoring me. And I kept giving him chance after chance after chance after chance. Like Glorilla says, and you're like, at some point you cannot give these chances anymore. So you get so broken down. My spirit was so broken down all the time. They also make you almost feel worthless. Yes, because that person is not happy with themselves and they're seeing you trying to build something for yourself. So instead of building you up and helping you get there, they're actually like saying things or doing things that will break you. And you don't even realize that breaking is happening. So that's kind of how that happened. It ended. It had to end eventually. Took 8 long years for me to decide, okay, this is not right. So that's probably my entire 20s when you really think about it when I moved here. And then there were short stints right after that, like different guys here and there. And you're like, it starts out so great, but it never ends well. Like, and it's always the same.
It's like a pattern.
It was a pattern because I was like, it's the same person in a different body. After a while, and I was like, ooh. But the best part was I was on vacation in Dubai with some friends, and they literally just started talking about therapy. Oh, I go to therapy, I do this. And I remember thinking, excuse me? Because I looked up to these girls. They were both doing well, according to me. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean you go to therapy? Because I honestly thought therapy was for people who literally need to be like maybe medicated, or you're in a straitjacket.
crazy people.
You're going crazy, like you're utterly
Essentially.
batshit crazy. That's
Right.
what I thought therapy, that's what it was for.
Like there has to be something like really wrong with you.
and
or
when they
you're crazy
mention
or
mental,
something.
when anybody mentions anything mental, we think of people like back home. There's a stigma towards mental health where we're from, because there's lack of education. So you always think it's probably someone's like ripping their clothes off and running out. You don't think that it's sometimes mental battles, and people show up looking whole, and they're not.
Like
they're
you
really
can't.
suffering.
You think of yourself. You have a regular job. You have friends. You know.
Like, what
You
could
don't
you
need
lack?
therapy.
What could you
Yeah.
lack? You have money. So, and that's what we grew up being told. If you have a roof over your head, you have food, what else could you lack? You clothes. There are people out there who are suffering more than you. Like, your issues are non-issues, quite
Right.
frankly. So when they mentioned therapy, I said, really? You guys go to therapy? Why? That really was my question. And my friend said to me, she said, well, I go to therapy to be able to actually deal with the world. And I said, oh, really? She said, I go to therapy when I'm happy, and also I go to therapy frequently. It doesn't matter whether I'm happy or sad. So you don't just go there when you're broken. It has to be something that you're constantly doing. And I in my mind, I was like, this is interesting. Noted, and continued having a good time on vacation. I came back home, and the guy that I was dating at the time, just again the same patterns repeated itself, and it got horrible. And this was the stroke that broke the camel's back, really. And that's when I was like, I need therapy. At this point, I realized I'm broken, so I need to go to therapy, because I cannot keep blaming everyone else. I have to take responsibility. I have to look within and ask myself, okay, how am I
How are
contributing?
you showing up?
I didn't even know that language then, but what am I contributing to the detriment of these relationships? Why am I not married? And of course, family members will start saying, wait, you're 35 years old, girl, you're over the hill.
Were you feeling a lot
At
of
that
pressure?
point, there was a lot of pressure. Pressure I was putting on myself, and there's definitely pressure from society. So going to therapy, so I reached out to my friend. I was like, will you please share your contacts for your therapist? Which she did happily. I contacted that therapist, and my first session, she read me for filth. I was like, I remember sitting there like, I thought therapy, from what I watch on TV, is you sitting on a couch,
And just
and the therapist is
talking,
right there talking, asking
taking
questions,
notes.
taking notes, and they ask leading questions, and then you have aha moments. That's literally what I thought therapy was, quite frankly. And then she's sitting there and telling me, well, you have sucker written all over your forehead.
Oh, wow.
I said, whoa, no one has ever said sucker? I was like, wow.
But how did that make you feel? Was it a positive interaction?
It shocked me. I don't think anyone had ever been that honest with me. And the way that I am, maybe directness is a lot for me. The way that I was raised, I wouldn't say I was coddled, but it's almost like you're told things in maybe a softer tone, in a palatable way. She's a straight shooter. Actually, not my style of therapist, because I will not use her, I will not work with her again, but it was a great jump start. I'm not going to lie. So we unpacked so much from that it is literally me who literally was waiting for them to choose me. I
Where
wasn't.
did that come from? Did she explain that?
That's so she didn't explain, because what do? They want you to go for more sessions, because they can't unpack this in one session. Literally therapy. That's why you have to constantly go and learn the tools, because it's not something you do one day, or when you're hurting and you go and you get a solution. They have to understand you. But I'm going to fast forward a little bit now to my 40s, speaking about the healing journey. I had to, at some point, I learned about childhood trauma. I didn't know I had it. I had no idea I had it. And literally, everything that we do in our lives stems from what happened to you as
I
a
think
child.
when, as an African, growing up in an African country, when you hear the word trauma, you think about someone who grew up in like a war zone, or maybe like a genocide. Like you never think
associate
that
trauma
you're
with
extremes, but you don't see that, just how you grew up, you could have experienced trauma, and it could have been very subtle.
And
You
some
don't
coping
notice it.
mechanisms you picked up
Right.
as a child. So I ended up, I did therapy with that lady I mentioned. I went a few sessions. I wasn't consistent with it, because her style was quite different.
You're
but
not connecting.
But I knew I needed it, so I would show up anyway. But I'm like, oh, she's really kicking my butt, and not in the most loving way. And I don't want you to like be loving. I want you. I think I like a nurturing sense. That's my style. You can read me for filth, but there is a way you can deliver it.
Right.
There is a way you can deliver it.
Your person to do that journey.
With my friend likes someone who tells her directly. So her and that therapist, perfect match. My therapist will not be ideal for you either. See what I'm saying? I could recommend my therapist, but you may not connect. That's why
Right.
we have to find our own therapist. But years later, I ended up taking a class on understanding childhood trauma. And when I took that class, everything, it's like aha moment after aha moment after aha moment, because I realized the first thing I should have done before therapy is take that. But then I didn't know that I had childhood trauma. Like most people don't realize it. And honestly, no one is unscathed. It doesn't matter how you grew up, whether you grew up wealthy, whether you grew up poor, whatever part of the world you grew up in, we all have something from childhood that actually, we are who we are because of
We
what
are
happened to
scarred
us.
one way or another.
We're scarred one way or another. It could be, some people, very rarely do you find people who are brought up in like healthy dynamics. Especially for my generation, where our parents had us so young before they were even adults themselves. The younger parents are doing better. I'm saying the gentle parenting, which is nice. But that's what made me realize, oh my goodness, I recommend that first before you actually think about therapy. Also, I mean, I'm saying children are going to see therapists early in life. They're able to uncover these things. See, I was doing these things so much later in life, but it's still better late than never.
Right.
So that class is what made me realize I show up this way because, I wasn't shown how to love. I never saw affection. Even my own mother, she never requested, the way my dad treated her. You know, the dynamic, kids internalize those things. So everything that my mother literally suffered through that I hated, I was doing the same thing. And
So you are repeating the patterns of your
the
mom.
patterns, I'm telling, when they say like it's really a full circle of generational curses, as they call them. Curse sounds such as like a strong word, but it's those patterns.
Essentially, that's what it is.
It's a pattern that needs to be broken completely. So that's why I had to do that. And when I learned that, and I learned this so late in life, and I realized that's why I was attracting narcissistic partners. And I wasn't vetting. There was so much stuff I wasn't doing. I wasn't laying out expectations. I was literally just waiting for life to happen to me. So someone who's not invested in you, they enjoy that. That's why I told you I was somebody's roommate. He's my boyfriend to me, but to him, you're someone who's contributing to his well-being and finances.
It was working out for him. But
He was
not
working out for
you.
him because he was literally, the infidelity was ridiculous. Even with amongst my own friends.
Oh, wow.
Yes, who are no longer friends, obviously.
Right.
You know, so you're like, it's hurtful. It was really, really painful. But that's what led now to me having to say, I need to do something about it. And I'm glad, though, because some people end up actually married to those
To
people.
those people.
And you're stuck in that cycle. So I am still very thankful that I didn't end up having a baby. For me, not for everyone else, because children are a blessing, however they come.
I mean, with that specific person.
With
you
that
mean.
specific person, because I would have been tied to them for my entire life, or the entire life of the child's life.
So, with all that you've done, where are you now? And you said that you felt some pressure before.
Oh yeah, there was
for marriage and all that. Do you still feel those things? How do you work with that?
You know what? I don't feel the pressure anymore, to be honest with you, because I got to a point where, and I think that comes with midlife. I would say that probably at my midlife at this point. So with midlife, you get to a point, something clicks in your head and you're like, why do you care so much about what other people are thinking? This is my life. Because society will always tell me, don't do this, you need to do this. But what makes me happy? Like literally moving to another continent, I couldn't have been able to do the things that I was able to do had I been in those situations. So, oh my goodness.
So life worked out.
It
in
worked
hindsight.
out. And it ends up working out for most people. Sometimes you learn these things late, but again, it's never too late. And even if you've done damage or damage has been done to you, remember, all of us, we've been through it. You may have been wounded by someone else, but healing is your responsibility.
How you show up now.
How you show up now is your responsibility. You cannot keep blaming the entire world. So that's where mine started. I'm very curious to know about yours. Did you have an aha moment? What led to you deciding to make a change?
I was like, anyway, before I die, let me read this book anyway, because I read this book, I forgot to die.
I would never have known that. Like, never.
Thank God we don't look like
Never.
what we've been through.
Yes.
Thank goodness we do
Yes.
not look like this.